So I wanted to start out, I understood that you were in Alaska in the 40s, and so I wanted to start out asking you about how you ended up in Alaska and what you were doing there.
Well, I went up there before the war started, World War II, because I had a boyfriend up there, and he asked me if I'd like to come up because the work up there was very good and the pay was good. And down here the pay was not so good. This was in 40. So I went up there, and my sister went with me because my dad wouldn't let me go by myself. I was only 18, 19. And so we both went up there and both got jobs and worked. And of course the boyfriend that I went up asked me to come up. He was drafted, so he left shortly after I got up there, but I stayed. My sister and I stayed. And went to work and made more money than we would down in Spokane where we were living.
Well, it was very early for women to work anyway, right? So
Not really.
No?
Women that was after the Depression, and they had to work or else they didn't eat. So we always had to work because we came from a family that 7 girls, and we all had to work because mother had left when I was 3 years old, so we all had to work.
Oh.
So we were all scattered around the area, Spokane area, and we all had to work.
had to pull your load for the
Yes,
family.
and that's why we went to Alaska, because we knew the wages up there were much better. And I had a friend up there too.
And what kind of work did you do?
Well, I started out working in a drugstore, and then I worked in a nightclub as a hat check girl, and my sister did the same thing, and she worked in a clothing store. So there was no problem getting jobs up there. That was in 1941. No problem at all. There were a lot of jobs, and the wages were about twice what they were. Before I went up, I was working in a restaurant, and it's called the Top Hat, which, was something that was very popular during that time. And so when my boyfriend said, "Come on up here because there's a lot of work and the wages are good," my sister and I went up. She had to go with me because my dad wouldn't let me go by myself.
That was probably a smart thing on his
Yes,
part.
yes. She enjoyed it just as much as I did. We both worked and both made probably double what we were making in Spokane.
So what do you, well, first of all, were these places that you worked, were they in downtown Anchorage, or what we
Yes.
know to be downtown Anchorage now?
Right downtown on 4th Avenue. I worked in a drugstore for an older couple that ran the drugstore, and they were just like a mother and father to me. And then my sister worked in a fur shop, and then we both worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. And we both worked in a nightclub, checking hats and coats in a nightclub, and that was our job at night. We had 2 jobs.
Do you remember the names of the drugstore and the
Shotties.
Shotties?
Shoddes.
And how about the nightclub?
A nightclub I can't remember the name of.
Are either one of them still there?
No, I don't. Shotties. No, I don't think either one of them are there. And the nightclub, it may be by another name, but it was a nightclub, and we worked as hat check girls, and I think we both did, I guess.
Well, you were a beautiful young gal then. That must have been a tough place for you to be with all the men around.
It was fun. It was fun.
You got lots of dates, got your dance card full.
We had, and of course the military was there, and so we had no problem with going out and having dates. We went skiing, and we did everything. And because the men always appreciated women that were good, and of course there were a lot of prostitutes up there.
Oh.
And my sister and I were not one of them, so we had nice men to date, and any night we wanted to go out, we could do anything we wanted to because we were the top of the line.
So what do you remember about Anchorage when you arrived, or what did you think about it?
Well, I went up because I had a friend up there, and he told me it was kind of primitive, and it was at that time. And it was about what I expected. And I loved it. I loved it. And when he was still there, he showed me around, and then, of course, then he was called into the service, so he left. But my sister and I stayed because we were making good money, better than we could in the States. And besides, we liked it. We liked the climate, even though it was cold in the wintertime. And I was working at what was called Shoddy's, and it was a drugstore. And they were an older couple, and they were kind of like parents to me. And my sister worked in a clothing store, and for nice people too. And then we lived in a room that was above a funeral parlor, and this couple ran the funeral parlor, and we had met them on the ship going up. So they said, "Oh, you know, if there's an extra room, you can room there." So we roomed above the funeral parlor, and we had to walk way back past the caskets and everything to a room back there. But it was fun. It was fun.
It didn't bother you at all?
No, it didn't bother us at all. And then we used to watch her fix the hair of the people. I can't imagine I did that, but I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the mortuary was downstairs, and they lived upstairs, and that's where our bedroom was, upstairs.
So, but did you actually fix the hair on?
No, we
okay.
didn't. We just watched them while they did it.
Okay, because I knew you had a beauty parlor later on, so
Yes.
I thought maybe you got your start there.
Yeah, they asked if we would, but I preferred not to.
Yeah.
So did you live right in downtown? So you could walk
Yes,
to work?
it was right down off of 4th Avenue, and it was upstairs, and it was a mortuary, and they had an extra room, so we rented the extra room from them. We'd met them on the ship going up,
Yeah.
and so...
Do you have like one market? Like how would you carry your meals or?
What did we do on meals? I think we fixed our own meals in the kitchen. They let us fix our own because we worked odd hours, and so we just I think did our own meals.
Yeah. Do you remember Kimball's? It's still there today.
Kimball's?
Kimball's. Yeah. Does that sound?
Fur?
Like dry goods, I think.
Dry goods, yes.
Yeah. Candy and
Yeah.
coffee and tea and that sort of a thing.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So, in comparison to now, how you've seen a lot of changes between when
yes.
you
I mean, it's entirely
lived
different.
there.
It was kind of a frontier town when we were up there, and it was definitely a frontier town. But we enjoyed it. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We skied, and there's a lot of military around, and we had no problem getting people to take us up in the mountains to ski, and that's where we learned to ski.
Cross country skiing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where were the military guys? Were they on base and you were?
Fort Richardson.
Okay.
It was a big base, and so we had no problem having nice young men to escort us around. Plus, there were people. I went out with a he was a barber, but I didn't. He didn't compare to the military. Military always treated us like queens.
And was there a movie theater in town that you went to?
Yes, there was one.
Was that on 4th Avenue?
Mm-hmm. Everything was on 4th Avenue.
That was the whole town then.
Yeah, it was the whole town, and of course it changed after the earthquake a bit. But it's still 4th Avenue is there. But it's much larger now than it was.
It sounded like you had to be real serious about earning money and earning your way. Was also though that the time you grew up was looking for a husband also, and was that something?
I wasn't looking for a husband then. I
Right.
just wanted to earn some money so I could go to school.
So your plan was to go back to the
Yeah.
Spokane or Seattle area
Yes,
to go to school?
and go to school. But then when we had to come back after a year because we had a sister that was dying of tuberculosis. And so that's where our money went,
Oh.
to take care of her and her family. She had 2 boys, so there went our money for school.
Oh.
Wow.
But it was well spent, I guess. We took care of the boys until the husband could find somebody to take care of them.
Mm.
So that was that phase of the life.
Mm.
And then we ended up taking classes when we could later on.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't go full time, but we took classes that we could afford.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the 40s, so it was the wartime, and it was not prosperous.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see a lot of military buildup in Anchorage during that year you were
Oh
there?
yes, there was Fort Richardson was there, and another one. There were a lot of military,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of military up there, because that was a big base up
Mm-hmm.
there.
Were you ever, did you hear stories that the Japanese might attack? Did you have to
Oh,
have
yes.
blackout curtains? And
Yeah, we were alerted constantly and had blackouts constantly because we thought the Japanese were going to attack at
Mhm.
any time. And in fact, they wanted all the civilians to leave because of the Japanese attacking. And so they had made arrangements for all the civilians to leave. But then it kind of changed, and it went back and forth and back and forth. And then when we did leave, we left because of my sister that had tuberculosis. We had to leave, go back and take care of the kids.
Mm.
But they wanted all the civilians to leave, but then they changed that
Mm.
because I guess they found out the Japanese weren't going to attack like they thought they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a very possible situation that they would have attacked Anchorage because it was close
Mhm.
and it'd been easy to fly in there and bomb it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear rumors about, Japanese coming in submarines up the inlet? Or?
Oh yes,
That was-
right, yeah, into Seward,
Mhm.
which was not too far from Anchorage.
Right, by
So
train.
there was also that possibility. So that's why they wanted all the civilians to leave.
Mhm.
But they couldn't really, they couldn't get out. My sister finally got out, she flew out. But then I couldn't get out until about a month later. I went out by plane, by ship.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go down to Seward to catch
you-
a ship and go out.
Do you remember people really sticking by the radio or reading the newspaper the minute it came out, really being in tune to like the latest news?
Yeah,
or-
we never knew if the Japanese were going to bomb. And of course, that was their target, was Anchorage,
Mm.
Seward, and then Anchorage, because it was pretty close. But they never did. But it was always a possibility.
Mhm.
It was a scary time.
Yeah, so I was thinking.
But you weren't so frightened that you wanted to move out.
No, we liked it up there. We had blackouts at
Mhm.
night, and everything was blacked out. But they wanted us to move out, but it was hard to get everybody out.
Mm-hmm.
My sister finally flew out, and I went out by plane a month later.
Mm-hmm.
By a ship, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
She flew out, and I went out by ship. But that, our ship stayed real close to the shore, all the way down, because of the Japanese submarines that were there. So we never knew whether there was going to be a submarine around us or not.
Mm-hmm.
So they stayed close to shore. It
Was that a long trip on that ship to back
It was
down?
about a week. It was about over a week.
And it probably wasn't a luxury liner.
No, it wasn't. It was not a luxury liner. It was just basic. And my sister flew out because I was the only one who went back by ship. I don't know why I waited, but there was a reason. I think we had to close up the house or something.
Mhm.
Or maybe I wanted to work a little longer,
Mhm.
something.
Plane flights must have been a little bit hard at that point.
Well, they were, but she didn't have any problem getting out on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
She had to make the reservation, I think, ahead of time to get out.
Mhm.
And I don't know the route they took, but I don't think they took the route on the ocean. I think they went inland over Canada, probably.
feeling it was safer that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, despite the fact that there was it was a wartime, people still came to the nightclub you worked on. You didn't have any trouble with.
Well, they weren't coming into Anchorage that much. It was just people that lived there.
Oh, okay.
And my sister was one that worked in the nightclub. And sometimes I helped her, but I worked in a drugstore.
Okay, so that was just kind of a secondary job. The drugstore was your primary.
Yeah, it was my primary, and I would help out at the nightclub once in a while. But my sister That was her job there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, she worked someplace else too during the day. We both had 2 jobs in order to make ends meet.
And the drugstore was probably a good place to get to know people that lived in Anchorage, right? So did you
Right.
get to know quite a few
It was
people?
about the only drugstore there, and everybody came in. So it was kind of a neat thing because we got to meet a lot of people. And the couple that ran it was an older couple, the Shotties, and they were just kind of like parents to us, and they kind of took us under their wing.
Nice. That was
Yeah.
nice for a young couple
Yes,
of young girls.
yes, yeah.
Are there any characters from Anchorage that you particularly remember during your time there?
Well, I think the Shotties were kind of characters. They ran the drugstore, and they had a daughter that she didn't work there because she thought it was beneath her. So I don't know what ever happened to her, but I think she finally married and came out to the States. But we, of course, knew a lot of people at that time, and it was a friendly place. Everybody kind of protected each other. And of course a lot of military too, and we dated the military as well as people in town.
So how many marriage proposals did you have before you left?
Many. Many. Everybody wanted to get married.
And you hadn't met Bill by then, so
No,
you
I
weren't
didn't.
thinking about him.
I didn't meet him until after I came back. And then his girlfriend of mine introduced me after I came back from Anchorage. I was ready to stay up there. I loved it up there. I wanted to go back. But then we had to come back because my sister was dying, so I didn't get to go back. Then I met Bill, of course, and that changed everything.
Yeah. Where did you meet him?
I met him in Spokane through a girlfriend after I came back from Anchorage, and she says, I just have the man you've got to meet. So I didn't really want to meet anyone because I had a boyfriend coming down from Anchorage, 2 or 3 of them that were passing through. So I was pretty busy. And anyway, then I went ahead and had the date with Bill, and then that was that.
That was it. You kind of decided
Yeah,
he was
well,
the
then
one.
of course he left, and then we had a long-term engagement for 3 years.
What happened during that time period? Did you know where he was or how he was doing, or were
Yeah,
you just?
we corresponded letters. In fact, I still have the letters.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Saved
that was
all
smart
that.
to keep them. I bet you'd like to
Yeah.
have them for your kids.
Well, for the kids, I was thinking of giving them to the history department because they love things like that. I don't think
Absolutely.
the girls can have them if they want them, but I think the history department would be the better place for them because that's history.
Yeah, they'd be thrilled to have them. I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of things did he tell you about
Who?
Bill when he was gone? What did?
Very little because everything was top secret.
So, did you get letters that had a lot of stuff blacked out?
Yes, right. We sure did. I still have some of those.
So you had to kind of read between the lines and try and
Right.
figure out what was happening.
Right.
Were you worried about him?
Oh yes, because he was flying and he was in a very dangerous situation.
Sure, yeah. Did you have a sense for how dangerous it was, or did you figure it out later on? Or?
Well, yes, because we had friends that their husbands were killed, or boyfriends were killed, flying. So yes, we did. It was a big worry. But Bill was fortunate and a good flyer.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Very skilled.
Yeah, so he came through it okay, but I lost a lot of friends that went over that I knew that didn't come back. Quite a few of them.
And then as time went on and he stayed in the military, then he was gone a lot more, and did that
Well,
become
he got
increased-
out and then he went back in. After we married, then he decided to make it a career. But he got out and then meanwhile after World War II and then went back in.
So did the military life turn out to be a good one for you and your family, or was it difficult?
Very good. We enjoyed it thoroughly, and the 2 daughters did too. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We got to see many interesting places around the U.S., and we had one tour in Hawaii. No, it was thoroughly enjoyable, and I think the girls enjoyed it too.
How about the times when he was gone? Were those difficult?
Well, that was difficult. Yeah, was difficult. It was a big worry too,
Mm-hmm.
of course, and especially in Korea. And but we were with people that had the same situation, and a lot of wives had the same situation, and some of them didn't come back, but we were fortunate.
It looks like from the pictures that you bonded with some of those wives too, so that you could all
Yes.
support each other, and so you had a little different family while he
Right.
was
We all
gone.
usually lived in the same area. The wives did, and we kind of clumped together. And so when the men were gone, why then we would get together and share experiences and letters and things from the men. And some of the men didn't come back, of course. And then we had, I have to throw this in, we had one wife that was what should I call her? She told tall tales, and she was always telling somebody that their husband was killed,
Oh my God.
which was not true.
That's evil.
Very evil, very evil. And so, and of course I knew it wasn't true, so I was, myself and another wife was one that we had to go around and tell these people that she is not telling the truth, she is just telling lies. It was awful.
Wow.
Sounds like she had some kind of mental illness.
She had some problems. Yeah, she had problems.
Because you go long periods without even hearing from your husbands, right?
Oh, yes,
And so
yeah.
the way people would find out if somebody died, was it
Right.
like a telegram or the telephone call? How would...
Word of mouth a lot of time.
Really?
People that didn't come back. And so that was very stressful too, of course. And of course we all got together, lived in the same area, and so we would share information too with each other.
Yeah.
But it was a scary time, especially during the Korean War. It was the worst time, I think. We all lived in Southern California at the time, and so that was nice because all the wives were together and we could share experiences.
How come that was particularly difficult for you? Because the kids were small and you
Yes.
were on your own?
Of course, World War II, I wasn't married.
Right.
And so that was just, I'm a single person, but Korea, of course, was, Bill was gone. And most of us lived in Southern California and lived close together so we could be together, the wives could be together, and the kids.
And then you had the two girls, calculating sometime towards the end of,
Yeah.
well, after he came back from there.
Well, I
right?
had one, Pamela, and then had the second one after he came back.
Okay. Well, and then Vietnam must have been pretty a concern for you. The kids were a little bit bigger, but it was
Vietnam wasn't as bad because we'd already gone through Korea, and Vietnam wasn't that bad. And Bill wasn't in a terribly tight situation at that time, so that wasn't too bad. But it's still a worry because
sure.
you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And he was in some places that were pretty tight too, but he never told me about them, of course.
Until you hear about them later on.
Right, yeah.
That's
later
just
on,
as well, right?
Yeah, just as well. Yeah, he never wanted to worry me, so he never told me he was in a situation that was bad, which is good, I guess. Nothing I could do about it
No,
anyway.
Right.
You just had more worry.
Well, you had a career of your own.
Yes, I was a beautician, and I had my own shop, and worked in Seattle. And that was before Bill went overseas that second time. And then when I had my first child, then I sold the shop.
Where did you get your training for?
In Seattle, Mary Stone, which isn't there anymore, but she had a beauty shop. It was a 1-year training period, hard training period. And then I worked for a while for somebody else, and then Bill and I were married, then I opened my own shop and worked for several years until we had to move, until he got his orders.
Were you sad to give up that business, or?
Oh, I enjoyed it, but it was time, and we had to move on, and because he he, let's see, where did he go? I don't remember where he went, but we had to move someplace. So then we had to move on, so then we sold the shop.
Well,
I know I sold it because I had first baby, I had Pam.
Oh,
So then I decided to close shop, sold it, and I had the baby.
well, being a beautician is a very portable profession that
Right.
everybody always wants everywhere you go. So that was a great thing for you to be involved in with all the moving you did.
Right, it was good, and I could work in any place, you know, that there was a shop. I would work for other people before I had my own shop. So it was easy job. And that was the only one that I had money to apply for to go to school. I wanted to go to nursing school, but I didn't have money for that. So the next thing was beautician. So that was a whole year training
That's
at
yeah,
that
that's
time.
a lot of training.
Yeah. So that's what I did. That helped Bill get through college, university after he got out. Of course, he was working too. We were both working while he finished in college, the University of Washington. It was a fun time, but it was a hard time.
Yeah. I hope you made him pay you back for that.
Many times. Many times.
Well, you had you did some modeling as well, didn't you?
Oh, off and on, yeah, in the military.
Oh, it was in the military? So what was the situation in which
Well,
you
it was a
were...
wives' club, and we'd put on shows.
Oh, I see.
We put on shows, and then they would pick the people they wanted to model, and then we would have the fashion shows on base, and invite the civilians if they wanted to come.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it sounds
that was
like
fun.
it. And did you make your clothes that you wore?
No,
You
No.
modeled other people's clothes?
other people's clothes. I wasn't in the sewing part of it.
Okay. Who taught Pam how to sew?
She taught herself.
She did?
She taught herself.
Well, she's very good.
Bill's mother was a seamstress, and so I think that was passed on, but she really taught herself. She made her own prom dresses in high school.
She's an exceptional
She
seamstress.
is. She's very talented,
Yeah.
and she wanted to sew, so she did. Bill's mother sewed, but I don't think she taught her very much, and I didn't teach her anything because I hated to sew. I had a terrible time just mending.
Well, maybe she got her sense of style and color from you then,
Yeah.
because she's very good at that too.
Yeah, she's very good at it.
Yeah.
She's very talented, and she does everything, needlework and everything.
I've learned a lot from her since I met her.
Yeah, she's quite talented.
Yeah. Do you have other questions?
I was just curious, when you were living in Anchorage, when you first got up there, what struck you as something really different, like the price of milk, or did anything, like what was right away you would
It was expensive. Everything was
more
expensive.
expensive and
And so we were very frugal because we didn't have any money.
yeah.
And we lived in a mortuary to begin with, and before we got a place to live. And so we ate with the people in the mortuary to start with, and until we had too many boyfriends, and then they kicked us out.
Oh, is that it? Too much life in the mortuary?
Yeah, too much life in the mortuary is right. Then we got a house with it.
Oh, okay. So you
Rented a house
yeah.
and got another roommate, so it was three of us to pay the rent.
Okay.
So
Do you remember 9th Avenue that was used? Was it used as an airstrip or was it a park at the time? Do you remember 9th?
I don't remember that was, of course it's so different now
Yeah.
than it was.
Yeah. And it might have been seemed far away from downtown
Yeah,
even.
we just lived right off of 4th Avenue, and everything was concentrated on two streets.
So the house
4th
you
and
rented
5th.
was also close by then? It was also one of those streets?
Yeah, 5th Avenue and 4th Avenue,
Oh, okay.
and that was about it.
Huh.
And first we lived on the other side of the cemetery. And
Oh,
to
yeah.
get to work, we had to walk through the cemetery. It scared the hell out of us. But we did it. And then we moved into town. And then we moved into town. We lived right next door. to 3 girls that were prostitutes. So all night long we'd have people, if they didn't know which door to knock on, a lot of times they'd knock on our door,
Oh, no.
thinking, is
Right.
Daisy there? And so we had to be really careful because it was right next door. We were really close to downtown.
Isn't that why they're supposed to put the red light in their window and you don't? You know?
Everybody knew who they were. But they were nice girls. I mean, we'd all go to this one dance place where everybody danced, and they'd be there dancing too. And we knew their names, and they didn't bother us. Once in a while, of course, the men would knock on our door by mistake, and we'd say, next door, next door.
Right.
Maybe they were just hopeful. There were some beautiful women living there. They thought they'd just give it a try.
Do you remember going to whatever the department store or looking at clothing, or did you actually buy any clothing when you were there?
Bought very little because we didn't have any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you go window shopping or?
Yeah,
little
we
bit, or-
usually just bought what we could afford.
Yeah, the
And
essentials,
because we were
the
both
basics.
working, so we really didn't need a lot, except, and of course we had many, many dates, and so we did like some nice clothes to go out dancing, and we did a lot of dancing. And that was and skiing. We'd go skiing. The military had all the equipment, so with the young men, they'd take us up skiing. That's how I learned to ski,
Yeah.
cross country.
Did you go on the Fort Rich base at all? Did you
Well,
get a tour of that?
didn't
or-
go there, but the men that were there came into town,
Right.
and we dated a lot of the men.
Where did you go skiing then? How far out of town did you go?
Oh, gosh, it was about probably 20 miles out.
I was.
Oh.
Yeah.
It
Was
was
it Arctic Valley at all, if that was at the time?
it was easy. It wasn't far,
Yeah.
And of course we'd go in their military vehicles, so we didn't have any problem
Problem with that.
getting there. So it was fun.
Well, do you have any other remembrances or important things that happened to you that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to?
In Anchorage?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked in Shotty's, and which was the couple that ran it were kind of like a mother and father to me, and that was protection. And then when a lot of times would walk home from work and go to our apartment, we would pass this place. It was a prostitution place, but we had to walk by it. There was no way to get to our apartment without walking by it. And then we'd see a lot of the men that would come into the Shotties to have milkshakes. They'd be lined up to go to the house of prostitution. And a lot of times we knew who they were. So that was kind of
Interesting.
interesting. I hated to see them. Oh, you shouldn't be there. But they were lined up waiting to get in.
Say, it comes to mind, do you remember, I heard about this place in Anchorage called the Monkey Bar. Do you remember that?
Yes, that came really kind of later.
Mm.
It
Okay.
wasn't in our time. That came later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the timing was on that.
I think the building we're in now, which is only 6 years old, used to be on the same location
Oh,
as where the Monkey Bar was.
Okay.
On Fifth Avenue.
okay.
Yeah.
Because somebody did a little research and said Monkey Bar, so
Okay.
I guess it goes back quite a ways.
Okay.
Huh.
But not the 40s.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what an interesting experience to
It was.
have done that and sort of made a big leap there to leave the area and go up in the 40s
Yeah.
during wartime.
It was during the wartime, and like I say, my sister went with me because my dad wouldn't let me go by myself. And then we would have probably stayed up there if it hadn't been for my sister that was ill and we had to come back. Because we both enjoyed it. We both had good jobs at making more money than we'd ever make in the States.
Right.
So.
Well, you were kind of adventurous because I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of young ladies would have done that. You know,
Yeah,
kind of
well,
jump into it.
We
so.
did, and we were adventurous, I guess, but our dad okayed it as long as my sister went with me. I was
Smart
going to
man.
go up. I had a boyfriend up there, but he left shortly after I got there, which was fine.
Look how good that worked out.
It didn't work out.
Hey,
It wasn't serious anyway.
Yeah. Do you think your experiences and with so many men in the military that it actually gave you a good comparison, so you could tell Bill was going to be the right one for you? Did you?
Oh, yes.
You appreciate
yeah.
actually
You
that
met
experience?
A lot of
then?
people, and you didn't have to contend with the ones you didn't like. You only contended with the ones that thought like you did.
Right. You
Yeah.
could have the pick of the litter. So to speak.
Absolutely. And then we had a friend that was an MP, so we always had some transportation. And he also protected our apartment. He posted somebody there all the time,
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
which is kind of nice.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially with the house of prostitution next
Yeah,
door.
next
you never
door.
know.
Yes.
Huh.
So he was very protective of us.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also kind of gives you a clue of the climate you're in, just to be, you know,
Yeah.
people wanted to be a bit careful. Yeah.
But we were walking distance of where our job was, and so but we didn't have any problems.
Mm. Did you spend a holiday in there at Christmas? Did you spend a
Yeah,
Christmas there?
we did. We were there almost a year, so we did
Okay.
spend.
Do you remember what you did for Christmas? Were you at the
You know, I
Shotties,
don't
or-
remember. I think we went back right before. My sister went back right before Christmas, and then I went back later.
Hmm.
But, we both would have stayed up there
Yeah.
because we really did enjoy it.
And was there a primary social hall, or were you talked about going to the dances? Was there at the
Yeah,
time?
there was a dance hall. In fact, it's still there in Anchorage.
Really? Oh.
What is it called? Pam would remember. And that's where we went to dancing, and we both liked to dance, and so every weekend that's where we went to dance.
Did they have bands?
Mm-hmm. Had bands.
Just local bands?
Local, probably a lot of military bands too.
Did you see any of the USO people? Did they ever come through Anchorage?
Who?
The USO, the military?
If they did, we weren't aware of it,
Okay.
but they probably did. And that was in the 40s.
Yeah, I don't remember who came about that time period. I don't have them fixed in my mind.
Yeah.
I remember
Right.
some of the characters that came, but not when they were there.
Yeah, it might have been a little later too. I don't know.
Yeah, very well could have been.
So I'll have to ask, you were out on your own, young ladies. Did you try things you wouldn't maybe normally have tried, like, I don't know, smoking? I guess that wasn't such a big deal. or your first
Smoking?
drink,
No,
or
we
you know,
didn't
alcohol,
smoke.
or anything.
We
Yeah.
had a girlfriend that lived with us that smoked, but neither my sister or I ever thought about smoking. We didn't.
Really?
It wasn't one of our things.
Yeah, yeah. Your first drink? Did you have a
We
cocktail
didn't
that
drink
was-
either
Yeah,
at that time.
yeah.
We didn't drink either. So we were pure.
You were the soda drinkers.
Yeah. If we went out with men, if they had a drink, then they'd buy us a soft drink.
Okay. And
So.
did you have a treat that you like, hot fudge sundae, or what was considered
Yeah.
a treat for?
Well, yes, because I worked in Shotty's drugstore,
Did
so
you?
that was I could have all the ice cream I wanted.
You did, really?
And they had the old-fashioned sodas then with the real soda
Yes,
that you put in.
they
Those
did.
were good.
Yeah, and the men would come in from the military, and they'd be lined up thick, because there were girls working there that were nice girls, and so they congregated there.
Did they leave you tips?
Not much. Not much. Tips weren't very popular then.
Oh.
Yeah.
They could have, but they didn't.
I don't think there wasn't rationing, was there? And
There was
there
rationing
was
at the
rationing in
time.
Anchorage.
Yeah,
You were
there
okay. So you had
was.
coupon books? Did you have or
I don't remember butter and stuff like that was rationed.
chocolate? The
Sugar, maybe?
Sugar, yeah, it was.
oh, okay.
I don't remember chocolate, but sugar was.
Hmm.
But it didn't bother us because we lived very frugally.
Sure. Yeah. Do you remember seeing? Did they have posters around much that said, be careful, the enemy cut over here?
Oh, yes.
That was.
Or the Japanese, yeah. Always the
So-
Japanese were going to attack.
So you're almost every day, or you were always reminded that.
Yeah,
something.
always reminded the Japanese could bomb us anytime.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted us all to leave.
Yeah.
But
And did you listen to the radio very much?
Oh, yes.
And was that in the drugstore? Did they have it on?
Yeah,
while you
we
were-
listened to it all the time.
Okay. And did they have a lot of music playing when they, or was there a lot more, do you remember just a lot of talking or
No, it was
announcing?
both. It
It was
was
a mix,
both,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you remember any particular program that you liked or didn't like?
No, I don't really remember. But the news programs were always the ones that everybody listened to.
Really tuned in,
You know,
yeah.
because there's always things coming in
Mm-hmm.
because of the danger of the Japanese attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And we had blackouts at night, and everybody had to have a complete blackout.
Mm-hmm. Was your family very worried about you? Did they?
Probably, her dad probably was.
Mm.
But my sister went out first, and I went out later. But like I say, we would have stayed up there because we had good jobs and making money.
Mm-hmm. And you were one of 7 sisters?
One of 7. Mhm.
Wow. Did most of them stay in the area here in Northwest?
Yes,
Pacific
most of them
Northwest?
did. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the one lives in Federal Way, and she was married, and of course her husband is gone now. She's still alive. And then I have a sister in Illinois. That's the youngest one, and she. We really didn't know her too well because when Mother left home when I was 3, she took the youngest one with her. I was the next to the youngest, so we really didn't ever know her. And so she's still living with her son in Illinois.
Where did your mom go?
She left. There were 7 of us, and she left with the youngest one when I was 3. So my sisters raised me.
Do you have good sisters?
Obviously. Well, I'm not dead anyway. They probably felt like killing me at the time. 'Cause I was a brat.
I can't imagine that.
Oh, I can remember it. I used to go out in the irrigation when Dad was irrigating the area close to our house. I'd run out there in the water where they couldn't catch me and stand there and swear. I learned the words from them.
Yeah, really. Well, it seems like the moving around lifestyle suited you, both of you, being in the military. I mean, you both seem to have...
We
made
loved it.
I was going to say, not just made the best of it, but it really appealed to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great because I didn't have a chance to. Well, I did move around. I was in Anchorage,
Yeah.
but no, I enjoyed it. A lot of the wives did not enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
but Bill and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And we always adjusted. We always had friends because there were people that we knew from other moves.
Mm-hmm.
So you always had friends.
Did you ever find it, restrictive, or somehow wish you could do something and weren't able to, or?
No, not really, except seeing the family.
Mm-hmm.
But we could always fly back to see family,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really no problem.
Yeah.
And which we would do in between bases, and we'd go home and visit the family. Of course, I didn't have a family; they were spread all around. But we'd go to Bill's family
Mm-hmm.
in 4 Lakes. My family was all spread all over, so it worked out.
Well, we promised not to grill her, so
Okay, we'll stop.
we should stick to our promise. But I didn't introduce you in the very beginning. I'm sorry. Could you say who you are and what your maiden name was before you got
Okay.
married, please?
Roberta Lorraine Penhalick, Penhallick. And that comes from a family name, and the family name was Penhalorick, Penhallurick, but my dad took the U-R out of it to distinguish our family from 2 other brothers that were living in the area in Moses Lake.
Oh,
So our family was the Penhallicks and the others were Penhaloricks.
okay.
And we were all, the 3 families were all in Moses Lake area. My dad farmed, and the other worked for Standard Oil, and then another brother was had sheep.
Oh. Okay. Well, thank you so much for participating today
Well.
and for allowing us to come into your home. It's been very nice.
Well, I
Yeah,
enjoyed
thank
it. And
I did too. And let me get a picture of you when you're not busy talking, and I can just get a picture of you, you know I'm taking it, because sometimes that's a little disconcerting.
I'll pretend you're not taking it.
Is that- just your regular smiling. Oh my gosh,
Is it good?
it's an excellent photo.
Can't- Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Not too bad, huh?
Not bad at all.
Oh, look at, even when I
Yeah,
zoom in.
okay.
And we'll send you copies of all these on a CD, so you'll have
Oh,
them.
thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is really fun. I should get Bill a still picture of Bill by his.
Or both of them, get both
And
of them
both of them
together. I
together,
think that
yeah.
would be nice. And then we'll get out of